Hello, everyone. Yeah, as was mentioned, my name is Bogdan. I am from TransferWise. And topic of my presentation sounds like experience with Groovy and Grails. But we'll talk just a bit about Grails and mostly about Groovy, because I was in a previous presentation like in the Advanced Java Meetup, and I think main idea here is just to form an opinion and just to understand, is it actually something you want to learn, you want to invest, or is it just doesn't worth it? So, GIFs are quite slow from mobile internet. Okay, so this is a short story about Groovy and myself. Yeah, they're supposed to to pedal in the opposite direction. So I am for quite a long time with Groovy already, and it's kind of goes up and down all the time. So some moments I really love the language and the frameworks and the libraries which are like provided by which use it, and sometimes I just like no Groovy, I need to find something else. And so I will share kind of things which for me are like really cool in the language, some pitfalls in the language, and yeah, I hope that at the end of this talk you will kind of figure out for yourself, like, is it actually worth it? So really, no GIFs? Come on. Okay, believe me, they are cool. So who am I? Playing Zerg in StarCraft? Any? No? Yeah. Preparing to my first half Ironman, doing a bit of DJing here and there, and the boring stuff. Yeah, I'm with Groovy from 2008, and learning using a bit of teaching and just a bit of contributing to this, to the Groovy ecosystem. So let's start with the Groovy. Who is using Groovy at the moment? Oh, that's it? Interesting. Okay, who is a Java user? Awesome. Who is a Kotlin user? Who is a Scala user? Oh, okay, cool. So, it should be interesting then. Then it will be helpful for you. So I have quite many slides and want to kind of build the presentation in the way that you will help me to kind of stop on the places which are actually interesting for you. So that is why I will ask quite many questions from you from there, because you will kind of help me to do it in the right way. So let's start with what is Groovy. Groovy is an object-oriented dynamic with functional flavor, but also static type checking and static compilation. So does it kind of clear what does it mean? All these highlighted things. So yeah, we'll go through some examples, and I think it will be more clear from the further slides. If you go to the groovylang.org, Groovy claims that it's a flat learning curve. Who is using Groovy already? Do you agree that Groovy has a flat learning curve? Okay, cool. Whoa. Yeah, so this is definitely true. So if you know Java, it's really simple to switch to Groovy, because Groovy is a superset of Java language. So basically, Java code is compilable Groovy code. So you can just just rename your Java files into .groovy file, and it will compile, and then over the time you will learn some new features of the language, and it will be, yeah, quite smooth transition. What I like in a G ecosystem, like Groovy, Gradle, Grails, Griffon, and so on, is that it's really active. There are a lot of users. You can find questions for like many answers, and Anton, if you don't mind, I will compare with the Kotlin, because I'm kind of trying to understand for myself as well. If Kotlin is something which I want to use, Kotlin is a bit kind of slower at the moment, but it's kind of getting into speed as for me. Groovy as a language has a lot of powerful features, which we will review later, and still, like, as for me, Groovy is still the best language for domain-specific, the best language to build your own domain-specific languages. It's arguable, because in a Kotlin you can do it in a typed way, but I think Anton will cover it later on. So no, I will not touch you anymore, sorry. Yeah, and also Java by itself doesn't have a scripting capabilities. So Groovy actually is a nice tool which gives you it, but we will check it on examples. So who wants to hear about a bit of history about the Groovy language? No, yeah, not so many. Let's keep it. I knew that you'll like it. So let's go to interesting stuff, is language features. As a language, it has these native constructions which looks a bit different than it looks in Java. So for example, closures. Who know what closure is? Okay, cool. So it has quite simple definition of list, maps, regular expression, ranges. These are all like really powerful tools, and I will it's a very powerful construction. I will stay on some of them for a bit longer time, but if you want to learn more details, I would recommend you to like example some of the presentations which are actually covering each of them in a more detailed way. Yeah.
Does Groovy still use the term closure for all lambdas?
What do you mean?
Because in Java 8 community now there is, it was really clarified where a lambda is only a lambda and when lambda becomes a closure. And actually,
okay, in Groovy.
And here is probably more of a lambda than a closure.
Okay, in Groovy community it's still called closure.
All lambdas still closure.
Yeah, I think there is no such a diversity. Maybe I'm not up to date. So maybe if someone knows, please correct me.
Yeah, because why the distinction? Because Java since version 1.2 has closures, but it doesn't even have lambdas and
capabilities. Yeah. Fair. I don't know. It's something to investigate. Sorry, I don't know an answer.
Can I ask? There is like this A and B. Where is it resolved?
Runtime.
What the closure is called?
Yes. I will show a bit of, yeah. So a bit of like a syntax is sugar from the language. It has this like something which is supposed to save you from null pointer exceptions. Also, it has like really kind of nice asserts in like which much simpler than in Java. It has an Elvis operator, which is just trainer operator, but like a bit shorter one. Spaceship and some like dynamic. So, for example, list and map has a lot of methods which can be called just on an instance, which, for example, in Java you should call through some libraries. But let's stop on closures for a while. So, this is kind of how it looks like. For example, C is a variable which has a closure inside. At the moment when closure is created, it remembers the A state and like what is A variable because it's used inside. And then whenever C will be called, it will remember the scope where it was created, and string will look like this. So nice and handy. So for like features of closures, if you're passing some parameters as a closure, it is a parameter name which you need to use to kind of address this argument. It has explicit parameter types like this, but it will not work. Compilation exception will not be thrown if you are using it without compile check annotation. So by default, it will throw in the right time. Yes.
Another question. Usually, it's being said, and you told it also that you can just copy paste Java code into Groovy file and it will work. But I think it will actually ignore all the types, so the access modifiers and lots of stuff that actually is there.
But does it mean that it will not work? So statement is still. It's not exactly the same, but yeah, but it will work.
Working Java code will work in Groovy.
Yeah, but working Java code inside of Groovy file is not working Java code anymore.
Okay, define working, but okay, yeah.
I had some little situation where there was Java constant definition.
Yeah.
It was not compiled in Groovy. Maybe I was something wrong. But
it's really hard to kind of.
You define something like array in Java. Constant array.
Array, you mean? What? Sorry, I don't get the question. Okay.
Array in Java with values.
Yeah, this will not work in Groovy. The Java array initialization with the curvy braces Because in Groovy you need square braces for that.
He meant array literal.
Ah, literal, yeah, literal will not work, yeah.
Compile to Java code. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Interesting, yeah. Should we go forward? Huh?
I want to create more confusion. So in Java, I think the closure can reference, the lambda can, or closure can reference only final variables, right?
Yeah,
I'm not mistaken.
yeah, not here.
So you can modify this the variable also.
yeah. It's not the pure functions. Like. Cool. Yeah. So you have default parameter values if you want, and what is like. I haven't used it anyway. I think I haven't used it ever, but you can do it. If you have a static method of some class, you can actually with ampersand you can take it as a closure and call if you want. Okay. So who knows what is puzzlers? Awesome. Who heard, like, who watched Groovy puzzlers? Because, like, as for me, I thought about how to actually show that Groovy is really a powerful language from one side, but from another side, you just like don't understand what is happening inside. So I think that I have like couple of like really puzzlers that I really love, and I want to present them here. So puzzlers is actually just a piece of code which is like doing something, and I will ask you, and actually I have like some even prizes for this, who will give a correct answer. What is actually will happen here? So we just learned what is a closure in Groovy. So this is quite simple method. Is prime. We have def checking if it's 2. Then we taking a square root plus 1 and building a range. Range is like from 2 to this variable. It's like you can consider this as array basically. And we are iterating through it. And if this number, which was passed as an argument to this function, module eat to, and it's equal to 0, then it's returned false. Like in the opposite case, it will true. So is code is kind of clear what it is doing.
What is the last value of 2 to limit?
This one? It's inclusive, so it will be like square root. For example, from 4 it will be 3. Square root of 4 will be 2, and plus 1 it will be 3, so it will be 2 and 3. Okay, clear. Yeah, cool. So what do you think will be result of this function? So we will do it like this. Who thinks that it is true? Come on, don't be shy. Really? Okay, I think that it will be like, for example, number format exception, because I don't believe that it will work. What do you think? Okay, option 1. Option 2. Okay. Option 3. Okay. And option 4? Cool. So, yeah. Just happens. So, who can explain me? This person will get a stress ball. What?
When you divide double by integer, you probably will get.
No, it's not about. Sorry?
Maybe we return from something else here.
Can you elaborate?
I'm not sure, but maybe return goes out from each.
Exactly. So, stress ball is yours. So, yeah, we have a closure. It's operating on each, iterating on each element, and this return is actually returning from closure by itself, and return true, the last line, is actually not the return of the, like this will be always called as the return of the function. Why I'm saying this, like showing this example, because this is actually a case, this is a problem, mistake which I did like more than a couple of times, because like you usually just forgetting about it. I understand when you are kind of in the functional program world, this is kind of clear, so everything is function and you're always returning from it, but because of mix of function, closures and yeah.
There are no return statements in function.
awesome, even better. So yeah, that is why it's kind of a pitfall. So collections. Groovy has a really nice set of features around the collection. So for example, you can compare a collection with a Boolean. You can do a simple iteration through the collection, like this. You have like various really useful methods. For example, find will find you a first element which satisfies this condition. Sum, join will just return a string. You can find the maximum, which will return maximum of the values of array. Also, you can just remove an element just referring to the element by itself, and it will works. So it's quite useful, quite handy, but it also has a puzzlers. So for example, this little example, when we have a list, we have 3 values, which is like 56, which is a string 9, and which is 74. And we are trying to find a maximum element. So we can list max. Max can be called in 3 ways. Without an argument, then it will just try to compare by itself. With 2 arguments, it will try to use them as a comparator. And with 1 element, when, for example, you are referring to some field in an object. So basically, this closure will be resolved for each element. So in this case, it's quite simple. I think you got the trick already. So this is the options. And you got a trick already that 9 as a string, we are all smart developers, it's 57, like if you convert it to integer. So who think that result of this function will be a class cast exception? Okay, it's the first time I see that some option in the puzzlers doesn't get any votes. Who thinks that result is 9, whatever it is, string or number? Okay. Who think it's 56? Okay. And who think it's null? Okay, at least one option is actually cool. Yeah, it would be quite logical if it would be null, but sorry, it is 56. It's GIFs are working. So yeah, it's kind of emotion you would see when you are trying to understand what is happening. So who can explain me why actually it is 56? I have another stress ball. Chris, wanna try? Okay, it's quite complicated. So let me help you. So as you got in this this kind of if, it will return always, it will be null here, because like 56 is more than 59, as if 57 is more than 50 and 74 is more than 7, but why 56? And this is kind of default Groovy behavior. If your maximum closure always return nulls, it will just return to you first element of the array. It just they decided that it's like a nice way to solve this problem. Cool. Yeah, no one gave a correct answer. I think I need to leave this stress ball for myself. This is what I mean. Is a GIF was working already? Just like, sorry, I just need to show it. Yeah, it's. No, it's not. Yeah, it's working like Groovy, but yeah. So we're still using Groovy, and it's. I will explain later my opinion about it. So maps. Maps are simple. There will not be any puzzlers. It's like you can simply create a map like this: name, likes, ID. You can refer to the element of the map just like to the property. You can iterate through the map elements, like map entry like this, where you have like key and value. You can put like this, and you can read as from array with a key. So maps are boring. But what is interesting, because like Groovy, it's supposed to be a language with good DSL capabilities, quite many things were like from the beginning were done as optional. For example, as you saw already, semicolons are optional. So you can set you can put them in the code, but you can just ignore them. Parentheses, they are optional as well. I will show examples how it works. Typing, it's interesting because like Groovy claims itself not a static, not a dynamic, but optional typing language. So you can put it or you can just ignore it and put def there. Public keyword is optional and return key is optional. So it's kind of an optional madness, I would say. That is why, so this code, it looks really simple and really kind of nice even, I would say. So this is like a bin user which has two fields which we are not specifying a type. It has a method. So another quite nice feature of Groovy, it's called a named constructor, which you can just, as an argument, you can use a map, and then it will map these elements to the fields. And for example, print, there is no parentheses here. Yeah, it's a very complicated word for me. And yeah, it's like nice and handy until we got to puzzlers. It's like, I think this one is my favorite. It's really simple, but what do you think will be the result? Here is like, I want to be really slow and steady, and like, one of them is 3, but it will not be a puzzler if it will be a 3. No such method error. It can be -3, and it can be execution failure. I'll give you some time because it's like really complicated. Okay, I think it's enough. So who thinks that it is option 1? I think you deserve stress ball. Okay, please help. Yeah, who thinks it's option 2? Okay. Who thinks that it is option 3? Ooh, whoa, whoa. Who thinks that it is execution failure? Okay, cool. So, yeah, you was right. It is -3. So I will explain it because like there is no like logical explanation. I think it's just like in AST level, if you just put this code in the AST browser, in AST level, does everyone know who knows what is AST? Awesome. It's abstract syntax tree. So basically, when code is parsed to this abstract syntax tree and then is actually compile it later. So this is actually this transition period between the code and bytecode. So in the AST, it looks like this. So we have a -3, it's kind of -1 multiplying for 3 with the function ops, which is kind of illogical. You can solve it in 2 ways. So we can add another parenthesis, like -3 and ops. You can add a value which is equal -3, so just introduce a variable, which is like handy. But let's go deeper. I just want to print this value. And you will not believe me, but there are some options as well. One of them that it will be -3. Another one that it will be 3. And this is when it will be interesting. It will be -3 and null pointer exception, and 3 and null pointer exception. So let's go. Who thinks it will be -3? So who thinks it will be 3? Wow, you so true believers in the Groovy. Who thinks that it will be -3 and null pointer exception? Oh, and who thinks that it will be 3 and null pointer exception? Happens. So, yeah. Yeah, it is. So this is the result. So yeah, I just executed in my console. It is -3 and null pointer exception. Yeah, it's clear. Who can explain it to me?
I'm not about to write the procedure.
-3 goes to print 11 and it doesn't return anything.
Yeah. So I think there are 2 answers like in simultaneously. So yes, you are absolutely right. So we can solve it by throwing another parenthesis, which I from the beginning mentioned that they are optional, but you can just add more of them or introduce another variable. Simple. And come on, really? You even don't load images for me. Okay, it's the next level. There should be a little raccoon who, with evil smile, who's saying that yes, you always need to pay for fun. So basically, to support these DSL capabilities and to be kind of really dynamic and nice look in some way language, yeah, sometimes such pitfalls, such problems appears. So Groovy has other nice features. Gstring, which is like strings, which is class which is handle everything which is related to a strings in the Groovy. Lots of different useful annotations which works on a different level. Some of them works on the AST transformation level. Some of them work on the meta class level. So this is like really handy. All the decimals represented as a big decimal, and dates you can do this magic stuff. For example, like today plus 1 will be tomorrow, so it's like has this operator, overloaded operator plus, which will just add 1 day. Regular expression switches, it's mentioned here powerful. They are not so powerful as in Scala, but they are quite good. I already a couple of times mentioned that Groovy is a language which is like really good for DSLs. So let me show you a couple of examples what I mean under good DSL. So for example, this string is valid in some conditions. It is valid Groovy code, like move forward at 3 kilometers an hour, which by Groovy compiler will be interpreted like this. So you will move forward, then another method, then 3, and then from 3 we are calling get kilometers and dividing it by hours. So there are like really good features which you can use and build really good DSL with it. For example, this one has a more another example, like yes, check that vodka tastes good. This is just a map which is an argument for the check function. And I will not stop like really deeply about like on the how to use these things. There is a really good presentation from Cedric about Groovy DSL. It was done in spring 2015, spring 1 2015. It explains a lot like how to actually build it. There are other tools like annotation, delegates to annotation, which allow to specify scope of your closure when you are calling it. Some compilation, customization, AST transformations, and so on and so forth. So, and when we talk later about the tooling around Groovy, you will understand what I mean under strong, like a really good DSLs. So, as you see, really, okay, this gun's supposed to go. Okay, Groovy is very powerful, powerful but dangerous language, and you should be aware about it. And the best gift. So basically, so you need to like help and help to your team understand this problem and educate each other. So it's not a random gift. This is our developer, Martin Megar. From TransferWise, we are throwing him out of breach. Yeah, it happened a couple of days ago. He survived. So yes, you should have like, you need to understand where Groovy is good for you and where is bad. So, and there's another, yes?
Isn't this like comment that something is powerful but dangerous is true for all dynamic languages?
Yeah, it is. And this I don't want to go into the scope of like discussing dynamic versus static, because like it was proven that dynamic languages actually, yeah, they survived. They're still with us. We are still using some of them. So I don't want to go to this thing. Like, but I believe that there are some jobs, some things which better to build with the dynamic languages, like scripting, some DSLs, and so on. So okay, you can prove me wrong with the Kotlin, but let's see. So there is another saying, which is I think is a main argument of like this presentation. So it's not about the language; it's all about the libraries and the frameworks. Who know who says it? No.
I thought it's about people.
No, it's a great guy. It's Maida Kara, TransferWise, just like our developer. It was a discussion, by the way, about Kotlin. So if we think about Groovy, it is about the ecosystem, and it is about the frameworks and libraries which were built. What? Spock is there. Yeah, I will mention it. So it is about the libraries and frameworks and actually ecosystem and how you can use this thing. So Groovy is what more than 10 years already with us, and these things 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 frameworks and libraries, they are mentioned on the Groovy as best projects, like best example of how Groovy is used. And this is just like something from me. So I will just briefly go through the things which I will not mention in the further slides. So Grails is a really powerful for prototyping framework, web framework, which is built on a Groovy. It has a lot of feature. I think it's like topic for the couple of conferences, like to explain everything and how good it is. So it is good, but it is dangerous because of Groovy and dynamic language and so on and so forth. Gradle, who knows what is Gradle? What? Unfortunately, you know what is Gradle?
I think this is one of the worst things that Groovy has given us.
I will have I don't remember. I think I removed the slide. Yes, I removed the slide. I can tell now. Gradle already mentioned that they are thinking about, not thinking, but they are planning to release in the next version Kotlin DSL support, which is like already have it in. I think it's beta, no, it's not released yet. I think they will run in a parallel for some time, but let's see. I don't know. Maybe they will switch. Even like that, they will switch completely.
Cedric also made a great blog post about why Groovy sucks.
Okay, I've just shown you a couple of things why it can be sucked. So I'm not saying that it's perfect. Don't take me wrong.
Yeah, but
And that's the real Scala stuff, right?
It's arguable as well. So yeah, but let's continue because I have really 40 minutes only. Yeah, like.
So you have actually 1 hour.
Okay, cool. So Grails, Gradle, Griffon. It's inspired by Grails. It's a framework for building standalone applications. It's done exactly like a Grails, but for standalone. Redpack is another web framework. Let's not go into details. gparse, it's for library for concurrency in Groovy. On top of all of this, there is an SDK man, which before was GVM. It's tool which allows you to manage different version and different libraries, like installation this on your local environment. So basically, you're just installing SDK man, and through it you can install like Groovy, Gradle, Grails, Redpack, Griffon, and all the other stuff. And I think this, which are later, like Spoke, Jeb, Grape, I will mention them later on the further slides. So I want to start with the Spoke. I think this is my favorite, actually, creature in the Groovy zoo. So Spoke is a testing framework. Who worked with the Spoke? Okay. Oh, so I have someone to convert here. So Spoke is it's actually a really good example of a Groovy DSL and how it can be applied to the testing problem. It built on top of like JUnit 4. Builds a test in a way of given when then. So you can kind of do a BDD approach there. Support really nice feature of data-driven tests, and I will show them later because I think it's like better to show code. So this is a completely working example. This is example of data-driven test. When you have it's written on a Groovy, what you need to do, you need to extend the specification from a spec language. You can define a name of any string as a name of your test. It's actually even supports, you can insert this variable inside this name, so it will be dynamic if you want. There are like some block, expect, where, given, for example, where you define a different state, and like this test will work like this. We have a data table where Spoke is a name, and like length is 5, and then we will run expect block for each of these lines, and we will compare the result. And if this string will return false, then test will fail. So this is like really simple. It will like fail in this case. Also, it supports really simple as for me, mocking and stubbing. So for example, with the same data table, you can say that, for example, there is an interface which implements some method. We are calling it with the 2 arguments, and we expect that it will be called once, and we want that it will return to us x plus y. And result, and then we're comparing result with z. So basically, we will go through each line in the data block, and we will check that, okay, 1 plus 2 equals 3, which is good. 0 plus 5 is 5. So like really simple. And but there is one problem with the Spoke. It doesn't support compile static, and this is as for me, this is one of the biggest problems. So because compile static is only is a notation which allows you to catch typization exceptions on the compilation time, and it doesn't work. And it's quite long open-it problem, and Rob Fletcher mentions that they will not, it will not be fixed anytime soon, but what you can do, like a workaround, that you can build some helper methods on top of it, and basically made them compile static, but it is a workaround, it's not a full solution. Another good thing about Spock, who knows what is Allure? No? Okay. It's actually not a Groovy thing, but I just mentioned it here because bridge between Allure and Spock was 99% of code was built by another our developer, Maxim Breshko. So this is a reporting framework built by Yandex. It has really nice interface. It works with JUnit, with Karma tests, with Jasmine tests, with a lot of different tests and test runners, and it gives you really good, generates really good HTML as a outcome of your test, and you can like filter, you can check different stats. Yes?
All of your tests are always greedy most of the time. Do you need this kind of thing?
This is a very good question, but for some reason Yandex built this tool. So I agree with you that it's like it's kind of, it shouldn't be like this, but when you are doing like a big migration or something, like really you want to check results. Okay, upgrading of your library version. I'm doing it wrong. I shouldn't do it. Never. Like, there are things when like a lot of tests can be broken, and it's like really easy to kind of go through it and check them. Okay, I'll give you another kind of reasoning to use it. It's not about like checking your problems, but for example, if you're using BDD approach and not technical people involved into the testing cycle. So for example, someone is preparing specifications and then they're running on with a Spock, for example, because Spock supports this like DSL and it can run. So then it is important to be able to read through results to understand how application behaves. Does it make sense? Okay, so okay, but yeah, it's really handy for reporting, and yes, there is a library for it. Cool. I really recommend you to look at this Spock. I have like I think like 4 examples in total. Another one is JEP. Who know what is JEP is? Okay. I have another bunch of people to convert. So JEP is a Groovy wrapper around Selenium WebDriver 2. So it is basically a framework for functional tests. It has really, it works really well in synergy with other Groovy projects. I will show it later, and implements some like page object pattern and has really good DSL, and I will show it to you later. So for example, this is a JEP specification. Not a specification, this is a simple JEP test. It's without any test runner. So you're just saying like browser, inside this browser, go here, assert here, like call this function, find this element, put this thing there, click on login, and assert that that user is logging in the admin section. Regarding page object, who knows what is a page object pattern? Okay, cool. So page object, it has like this. Implementation of a page object in JEP looks like this. So you have a URL of a page, you have closure, which allows you to check that you are at this page at the moment, and it has a content block where you can define different element which you want to interact on the page. So for example, JEP works really nicely with Spock, so you can write tests something like this. It's like JEP reporting spec. Again, like name of a test, when we are going to cart page, then we are expecting that we are at cart page and cart items are empty. So this is referring to this page object. And for example, you can use it in the same way as a data-driven test. Like you can define these blocks, when, then, where. then, for example, for disabled user, you can say that when we are going to login page with this user, we're expecting to see this message, with locked user this message, and with invalid user like some other longer message, which is like really nice. Here I need to do a little warning, because like this is really my personal opinion, and I know the people who are not kind of sharing this opinion, so use it carefully and define for yourself if you like it or not. But this is another area where Groovy like work as a magic, and it's like it was like used in some cases where really helped testing. Like let me explain. So Groovy has this feature which is called remote control. Remote control is a library, Groovy library, which allows you to call Groovy closures remotely on some running JVM. So for example, you have another application somewhere, you can define an endpoint there and just like, okay, here is my code, and you just can execute, you are executing it there. It has some nice features, so you have like some return types, it supports return types, so for example, closure, running there, it returns some value, and you're reading it on another side. And
sounds like a security risk.
exactly, that is why I said that it's my personal opinion, and use it really wisely. So, but it is really good for testing. Let me give you an example. So for example, JEP specification to test your application can look something like this, which is like really handy. If you need to prepare data for the functional test, it can look like this. So for example, we are defining like logging spec. In a given, we have a valid user. This is kind of completely kind of runnable code. There are some imports missing, but still it works. Remote defines that it should be executed remotely. We are configuring it on a base class. Then we are saying that please give us user service and register this user. It is a magic. It is magic. It is magic. It is definitely it is a security breach. But if you use it wisely and, for example, use it only on staging environment, only on test environment, it gives you a really huge benefit. What is a benefit is what are the ways to define to prepare data for your test. One of them is put the data into the MySQL in database directly, which is like okay, but then you have really huge distance between data layer between MySQL and between the actual code which is running on the functional test level. And quite often data structure is changed and you kind of have your tests broken just because like, I don't know, some column was added or renamed or something like this. With this approach, you have an ability to interact with your application somewhere in the middle. So you can work exactly with the same services, which has, for example, a unit test coverage in your application, and just call them remotely to prepare some data and later to run this test. As I mentioned, use it wisely, understand all the risk, and please don't use it in production.
So this remote code has to store this registered user somewhere anyway.
Exactly. So this code just, this is a test code, yeah? Somewhere here you have an application which actually up and running. For example, Tomcat somewhere. So this remote will go to this application. For example, application running in a staging environment use real MySQL database and all the things, so just like a real application. And it will register a user for you inside this application with this bean, with this method.
So anyway, there is a big distance between executable code and the database.
But actually, you can ignore this database layer. You don't need database anymore.
So then that user service in the testable application, we have to somehow replace this service, not to store this user in the database.
Exactly, but what do you think? What is easier to control? Control one bean with method, which actually can be unit tested and can kind of, you can test that contract is not broken. Or it's easier to test like that MySQL structure is kind of working with this data set. What I mean is that you don't care about database structure at all. You just like using a business logic kind of beans to prepare your data. Okay, cool. That's it about JEP, Spock, and remote. Let's go forward. Another thing. Oh, I see the guys from Zeratron around. They should like it. So one thing which is really good in the Groovy ecosystem is a grape. It's jar dependency management. which allows you in a single file define like really tiny application. I thought about like examples, what is actually where it's needed. One of them is scripting, when you need to just like start like really tiny application and test that it's working. You don't want to create a Gradle project and so on and so forth. But another example, it's yeah, it was provided by Sergey Yegorov. This is like a real application which is used during JRebel tests. So it's like really simple Vaadin application, which is you can see this graph, this annotation defining that it should have a Vaadin Spring Boot starter jar. And this is, by the way, like runnable code. You can copy it, put to the file, Spring run, and it will start an application, and you can check it in browser. So in the zero turnaround, such kind of a little application I used to check that their JRebel client is actually working with a different application and with a different basically with the different types of application and different frameworks. And Groovy gives them this ability to store test application like really close to the testable code. So basically they have defined these classes like really in the test code and running them from there, which is like really nice and handy. In the real life, as I mentioned, just for scripting, this is where you can use it. And I think the last example which I have, which is where Groovy as a language inspired Jenkins as a tool, and this Jenkins Job DSL. Who knows what is it? Guys, you should use it. It's like, it's really awesome. So basically, if you have like more than, I don't know, 50 jobs in a Jenkins, I think like if you have a decent like project, you have more than 50 jobs in the Jenkins. It is became like a nightmare to manage it. There is one way which I don't really like. You can put your all XML configuration under some version control system and manage it from there, but it's like it doesn't work as for me. But there is a Jenkins Job DSL which can help you. So you can have a Groovy code, something like this, where you're defining a job. For example, how to work with a repository, how trigger should look like, steps, and so on and so forth. And this is a DSL from which your Jenkins jobs will be generated. So you can store this in a repository, you can have it under version control, and then just generate jobs if you need. What is the beauty of it? That Groovy, it's not just a property file or YAML file, because like previous example can be easily defined in XML. But for example, if you need some dynamic flavors there, if you need, for example, check out the repository, and for all the branches, you need to create different projects in the Jenkins. This is, I don't know, it's definitely it's not a real example, but with Jenkins DSL you can do it. You will go to the, so here what it will do. You will go to the URL, you will get the branch, all the branch names, go iterate where it, and here is how the job name will look like, and you will create a job which will have this repository configuration. Yes?
Recently released Jenkins 2
yes.
has this pipeline
yes.
in, and DSL is Groovy. So it's like,
yeah,
it's built in now.
Yeah. Now in one
mainstream continuous delivery, continuous integration.
In first version of Jenkins is just a plugin, but in pipeline it's kind of a part of the finally guys decided that this is a better way to describe your jobs than XML. Cool. No, I have one more example. It is another example where language with its capability gives you some dynamic into some kind of a static thing. So who know what is a Liquibase? Okay, awesome. This is arguable as well. Like this example is not really real, but we used some dynamic things in the Liquibase DSL. So Liquibase has by default like I think 2 DSLs. It's Java and it has XML. But also it has a Groovy DSL, which is heavily used in the Grails. I think it's the first time I'm mentioning Grails here. For example, you can define a change set inside the change set, you can create a file. I'm not saying that you should do it, but you can do it. You're writing some CSV into this file, and then you can load data with a standard liquid-based DSL command to your database from the file. And for example, this is how DSL for the, what is this? Deleting of table. No, it's not deleting of table. It's deleting of row from the table looks like. So you can say that change set, delete from the table, where really like nice and handy. I think the kind of conclusion of this talk, I've showed you some good things about Groovy. As for me, they're still good. Like Spock, I love it. Jep, I really like how it works with this insecure magic. I like how Jenkins DSL works. So let's think about conclusions. As for me, because in the Java world, there are so many handy things, even Groovy, which, or even Gradle, which you don't like, it still uses Groovy. And it's kind of, I think you need to understand how it works, what is happening inside. So my point is, if you're a Java developer, it's better to know Groovy, just because of a lot of tooling around. And another kind of opposite conclusion is that if you're a Groovy developer, because at the moment it's quite simple to start using Groovy without knowing Java. Because Groovy use a lot of libraries from the Java, it's really important to understand what is happening under the hood. So even if you know Groovy really well. From personal experience, I do believe that Groovy gives you speed boost. So you will do things faster. But Groovy code is more fragile than Java. This is, again, comes from the personal experience. But from another side, if you are writing Groovy code in a good way, as there are a lot of presentations up in the internet where you can find how to kind of do a proper, good Groovy coding, then you can create well-supportable and refactorable, where IDE can actually help you with refactoring. And one of the latest conclusion is that, who knows what is Lombok? Awesome. So with Java 8 and with Lombok, you actually get, it's quite complicated formula, you actually get, you can get Groovy, but it will be Groovy without DSLs, because still Java don't support a good DSL, and without scripting, because you can just do scripting with Java. So, but from performance perspective, you can be as performant as, performance will be on the same level as with the Groovy. Again, it's my opinion.
What doesn't give you nearly what Groovy gives? Gives you automatic getters, setters, constructors, whatever.
It removes like this verbosity of Java in some cases, but it doesn't give you like each and this find all and all this all these closures. But as for me, at least comparable. Like it's not so bad anymore, especially with the lambdas. So yeah, that's it. So any questions?
I have a question. Have you ever tried Python?
Yes.
Do you like it?
I think I've tried it as a scripting language at the moment when I haven't found a proper library for Groovy. But then I found a library for Groovy.
Okay, cool. I'm just thinking that it also runs on JVM, right? There is Python.
Okay. Why you need to use it?
No, I'm just asking your opinion. Like,
okay.
I like Python.
If you want to use it in JVM, just use Groovy. Why you need Python?
Okay, I think I understood your opinion.
Groovy on JVM for sure is better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's too vague on an answer, but yeah, it's kind of have a, I think with this GSR 251 or something, it's kind of a native support. Or like, can you comment on this? No. Okay, whatever. So it is good. Yeah.
And maybe you could tell about how you use Groovy in
okay.
TransferWise.
In a TransferWise. There was this word, quite complicated and scary thing called Grails. So we have two Grails applications, and which Grails by itself use Groovy, and it has a lot of like really good stuff. Like for example, you're defining domain models just like Pogo classes. It's not a Pojo, it's a Pogo because it's plain old Groovy. Okay, yeah, and you can define it just like as a Pogos, and you can create simple REST endpoint with a couple of annotations and with this Pogo class, definitely for testing, for prototyping. So as for me, like from the beginning, like TransferWise started, we started with a Grails application, and it gave us really huge speed boost. I do believe that it gave. Because of like, it was really easy to iterate, really easy to build. But when you have like a lot of developers, which are like 50, 70, 80, 100 developers which are working with like same code base. Okay, this is another problem. You need to modularize. But again, like if you have like many people which are touching a Groovy code, it's a bit hard to maintain it, to kind of keep it on the same level of stability, for example, as a Java application. Okay, it's again coming to the point of like static versus dynamic typing and how you're using language. So I would say that if you're looking into Groovy, prototyping, scripting, and some tiny, for example, microservices, it's still good with it. So with the Grails 3 completely built on top of the Spring Boot with the Groovy and with, I don't know why they got a GSP there, but they don't need a view layers there. So like you can build like really like functional microservice, I would say, like in a 20 minutes as a REST endpoint of one domain entity. So yeah, how we're using it, we have Grails. In quite many microservices, even if they are written in Java, we have a Spock test. So we are writing tests in Groovy in Spock. It works nicely, I would say. We are using remote control for functional test. It is enabled only on staging environment, so we are covered. And yes, I am.
On which port it's running?
Yeah, and yeah. So we're kind of happy with it, but because of these problems which I mentioned in the puzzlers, yeah, sometimes you have some unexpected behavior.
Cool, thanks. Any more questions?
I have this kind of not really off-topic question, but the question regarding this these puzzlers. How many interesting bugs have you encountered?
Actually, these are not real life bugs. Literally, it's like there are like you can check in internet Groovy puzzlers. I think Groovy is actually the first. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Groovy is the first language which got a puzzlers topic on the conferences. Like, no, not the first. After Java, okay, because I thought that it was Groovy. So yeah, but it was quite heavy there because you can do a lot of magic. In real life, as I mentioned, for example, return from closure, yeah, happens.
Yeah, they always return some kind of value, but when it gets executed and when it's running live, how do you kind of deal with the unexpected behavior?
Tests.
Tests? Oh yeah, that's an option.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have as I mentioned, we are using Spock, we have a testing, so usually if you're not sure about the behavior, you just like write tests, but yeah. Okay, sometimes even first, but yeah, sometimes even TDD, but yeah, it's another topic.
So do you think Groovy's, like, how do you think Groovy's popularity is changing now? Like there's Java 8 and now there's Kotlin. I mean, like, how was it 5 years ago?
No? 1 second. I don't know. I'm searching for Google Trends. So yeah, this is like really nice place to check trends of different things. So okay, internet is quite slow. We can check it later. But as for me, my personal opinion, yeah, I think it's dropping. For can I check?
Since 2009, 11.
Okay. Yeah. Here's an answer. show for everyone. Yeah. Any more questions?
Probably you will get the same picture for Java. I mean, with decline.
It's my mobile internet. Yeah, I can answer something else meanwhile. Okay, thank you for your time. I hope it was interesting, and I hope you will try something for yourself, and you kind of at least you will understand when to use Groovy and when you shouldn't, and what to expect from this language. Thank you very much.